Captain Sola clenched her jaw, body tense as the damaged escape pod shuddered violently. Piercing through the thin Martian atmosphere, the compact vessel juddered and groaned under the strain. She tried to maintain control, wrestling with the manual controls, but it was no use. The pod was in a dead drop, rocking more fiercely with every passing moment. Sola's heart hammered rapidly in her chest. Just hours ago, everything had been normal. As captain of the SS Luminary research vessel, she led routine scans of Saturn's distant moons. Her crew, like family after so many voyages shared, laughed and bantered as they worked industriously. Then, a barrage of missiles struck without warning, crippling their engines. They were swarmed by a ruthless gang of unknown assailants, their sleek attack ships cutting through the inky blackness of space. Sola had ordered her crew to abandon ship and flee in the escape pods. She remembered their frightened faces, their shouted promises that this wasn't over. The SS Luminary and its crew were gone. Sola was utterly alone. The pod rattled violently again, jolting Sola back to the present. She needed to focus if she was going to survive this. Peering out the viewport, she could see the rust-hued Martian terrain fast approaching. She angled the pod toward a sparse outpost colony she spotted in the distance. Bracing herself, Sola manually extended the retro-rockets to slow their blistering descent. The craft jerked wildly, throwing her against her restraints as it broke through wispy clouds. The Martian surface was now alarmingly close. Clenching her teeth, she fired the landing jets. The pod slammed into the rocky ground with a deafening boom that reverberated for miles. A cloud of crimson dust swirled around the pod as it slid and skipped across the iron-rich plain, finally coming to rest near the outpost. Blood dripped from a gash on Sola's forehead as she unstrapped herself from the pilot's chair. Her muscles ached, her body bruised and battered, but she was alive. She limped to the exit hatch and heaved it open with a metallic screech. Dazzling sunlight flooded the pod interior. Sola coughed as she inhaled the alien air, cold and thin, yet somehow invigorating. As the swirling dust settled around the pod, her eyes widened. Several tall figures were approaching from the outpost. They definitely weren't human. Sola tensed, ready to retreat back into the pod. The leader of the group, a towering 8-foot-tall humanoid, raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. Sola noticed he had luminous oval eyes and skin that shifted colors like the surface of a soap bubble. "Greetings, human," boomed a voice in perfect English. "Do not be alarmed. We come in friendship." Sola hesitated. "You know English?" "I am Tal Kor, leader of the Blarian outpost," he replied. "Your language was shared with us when our kinds first made contact." Sola relaxed slightly. She had heard of the recently discovered Blarians, though had never met one in person. Their reputation for wisdom and compassion was well known. "We witnessed your violent descent from the sky," Tal Kor continued, his voice tinged with concern. "Are you gravely injured?" Sola stepped fully from the smoking pod onto the alien soil, blinking against the harsh sunlight. "I'm Captain Sola, from the human vessel Luminary. My crew and I were attacked without warning. I'm the only one who made it out." Tal Kor's luminous eyes widened in surprise. "A solo survivor of an ambush? Most remarkable. Your human resilience never fails to astonish me." He extended a long-fingered hand. "Come, you must need care and sustenance. We will provide anything you require." Sola allowed herself a flicker of hope as she clasped Tal Kor's hand in friendship. Though the road ahead was uncertain, she had survived the impossible once already. Perhaps, with new allies, she could do so again. Sola sank gratefully onto a softly glowing couch inside the Blarian outpost. She was enveloped in soothing warmth, emanating from the bioluminescent walls pulsing with alien technology. 2 Blarian medics tended gently to her wounds, waving slender instruments over her body. Soft blue light washed over Sola's bruises and lacerations, mending torn skin and soothing aches. The advanced medical treatment worked rapidly, easing her pain within moments. Once finished, the medics withdrew, leaving Sola alone with Talcor. He joined her on the couch, peering at her thoughtfully with his luminous oval eyes. "Your people are quite resilient, surviving trauma that would destroy others," he remarked, his voice a resonant echo in the chamber. "I confess, we Blarians are fascinated by humanity's tenacity and inner fire." Sola sighed, feeling some strength returning to her battered body. "We humans can be stubbornly persistent when we choose to be. Had to be, to endure the dangers of space until we met allies like your people." "Indeed," rumbled Talcor, "which leads me to ask, if you feel able, what transpired to put you in such mortal peril?" Haltingly at first, then with growing strength, Sola recounted her terrifying ordeal. The luminary crippled and boarded without warning, her crew captured or killed. Her lonely escape in the fleeing pod as her ship exploded soundlessly in the star-flecked void behind her. Talcor listened intently, azure skin shifting in contemplative hues. When Sola described the strange, swift raiders that ambushed them, he stiffened in alarm. "Your description matches the vessels of the Clax," he said grimly. "A ruthless insectoid species that roams remote sectors. We have heard whispers of their attacks, but nothing confirmed." Sola sat upright, despite her body's protests. "The Clax. I've heard the rumors too, but thought them space boogeymen. You believe they destroyed my ship?" "It seems probable," Talcor nodded. "They take no prisoners from other species. The fact you reached us unharmed is astonishing." Sola clenched her fists as anger overtook her grief. The Clax would pay for what they did, but first she needed more information. "I cannot let this stand unanswered," she told Talcor, resolve stealing her voice. "Will you help me uncover proof it was them? My people must know the truth." Talcor studied her for a long moment, then stood and extended his hand once more. "You have courage that outpaces your fragile human frame. Of course we will aid you in bringing justice against those who attacked your crew." Sola allowed herself a grim smile as she shook Talcor's hand. Together, they would gather evidence proving the Clax's involvement. With proof, she could convince the United Terran Council to sanction a retaliation fleet. It would take all her skills in diplomacy, but she would ignite their anger over this loss of innocent life. A blaze of vengeance began to burn within Sola, fueling her determination. The Clax clearly underestimated humankind if they thought such an act would go unpunished. She would rally her people and lead them screaming into battle against the invaders who dared harm them. Some called humanity weak, but within even the most docile person lay a reservoir of fiery wrath when roused. The Clax assaulted the wrong species. They would soon face retribution for waking the ancient fury that lay coiled inside every man, woman, and child of Earth. Sola turned to Talcor, eyes hard with cold purpose. "Before this ends, the Clax will learn to fear humankind." The Clax lit a fire within her people that would not be easily extinguished. Sola vowed to direct that raging inferno toward justice. In the weeks following the attack, Sola pored tirelessly over recovered debris from the destroyed SS Luminary. In a small makeshift lab at the Blarian outpost, she analyzed charred hull fragments, seeking anything to confirm the identity of the mysterious ambushers. Talcor aided her efforts, providing sensor data and materials. He marveled at Sola's indefatigable drive and laser-like focus. Her analytical skills impressed him. "You have the patient mind of a scientist despite your warrior spirit," Talcor remarked one day. "What do you hope to find in these ruined fragments?" Sola peered into a scanning electron microscope, scrutinizing a deformed metal shard. "Any clues the raiders left behind?" she replied. "Signature damage, radiation traces, even paint flecks from their ships. Anything that proves the Clacks were responsible." Her diligence finally uncovered a breakthrough. Scans of a twisted bulkhead piece revealed subtle molecular decay consistent with Clack's plasma weapons. Sola immediately contacted the United Terran Council to present her findings. At last she stood before the governing council, stoically recounting her ordeal. Though still healing from her wounds, authority and passion rang in her voice. "The murderers have been identified," Sola declared. "The Clacks grow brazen, attacking directly in our system. But we know humanity's strength lies not just in might, but in ties that bind us to allies like the Blarians." She drew herself up proudly. "In the spirit of fellowship, I ask your permission to assemble a joint fleet. We will deliver justice for my lost crew." The council members conferred in hushed tones. Then the chief consul turned to Sola. "Your request is granted, Captain. May your actions light the darkness." 3 weeks later, Sola's new command ship dropped out of warp at the edge of the solar system. Rough and ready, the vessel bristled with weapons and shields. A small fleet of additional human and Blarian warships stood by her side. Her crews represented many races but shared her outrage. In a stirring address over the comm, Sola told them, "We face a cruel and merciless enemy who believes we will cower in fear, but humanity does not frighten easily. The Clacks will answer for their butchery." A raucous chorus of cheers resounded through the hull. The diverse crews, knitted by bonds of fellowship, thirsted for justice. At long last, the hunt was on. It did not take long to confirm the location of the Clacks' hidden base by tracking ship movements. Nestled deep in the Kuiper Belt, amidst icy asteroids orbiting distant dwarf planet Sedna, loomed their fortress. Sola's heart hammered as the fleet dropped out of warp perilously close to the base. Clack's patrol ships swooped in, unleashing swarms of missiles. Her crews responded instantly, guns thundering in the void. "Remember, capture me a Clack ship intact if you can," Sola barked over the din. They needed prisoners for interrogation. The battle was brief but intense. The Clacks were vicious, but Sola's fleet had the fury of the righteous on their side. They obliterated the patrol, suffering only minor losses. Now for the real fight. As the asteroid base grew larger in their viewports, Sola turned to her weapons officer. "Target their hangar bays and weapons caches," she ordered. "Let's give them a fiery welcome." The officer grinned savagely. "With pleasure, Captain." Sola sat back firmly in her command chair, heart blazing as her fleet unleashed hell. The joint human-Blarian armada descended ferociously upon the secret Clack's asteroid base, unleashing a blistering barrage. Artillery cannons thundered as fighters wove through blossoming explosions along the pockmarked surface. At the helm of her command ship, Sola surveyed the raging battle with ice in her veins. The ambush had swung the advantage in their favor, but breaching the fortress interior remained critical. "Target their hangar base shields with focused ion cannons," she commanded. "Prepare boarding teams for assault." Her weapons officers complied, rotating the ship's arsenal into alignment. On Sola's command, dazzling pillars of ionized particles sliced through space. They slammed against the flickering hangar shields, overwhelming and collapsing them. Immediately, the ship launched swarms of boarding craft, each packed with armored soldiers bristling with weapons. They shot toward breaches in the hangar walls, disappearing inside amidst flames and venting atmosphere. Chaos reigned over the comms. Shouting, weapons fire, and blood-curdling inhuman shrieks rang out as the boarding parties engaged the Clack's defenders. Through it all sliced Sola's voice, commanding and encouraging her troops. Gradually, the shouts quieted as the human and Blarian soldiers gained the upper hand through sheer grit. Their comrades disembarked the fleet ships in endless waves, seizing more and more of the base. Sola watched with grim satisfaction as the Armada's cannons continued punishing the asteroid's surface, pulverizing weapons emplacements. The clacks responded with only sporadic return fire now. A transmission filtered through the chaos, addressed to Sola's ship. Her comms officer looked up in surprise. "Captain, the Clacks Queen demands to speak with you directly." Sola raised an eyebrow but accepted the request. A 3D display activated, revealing an insectoid creature with onyx skin and glittering ruby eyes. "You bring needless violence, human," the Queen hissed angrily. "If you desist your attack, we may yet find common ground ended when you slaughtered my crew," Sola snapped. The Queen fell silent at her icy fury. Then she drew herself up proudly. "If vengeance is what you want, face me in sacred combat, just you and I to decide this conflict." Sola considered it, then nodded. "I accept your challenge. Prepare yourself." Despite objections from her officers, Sola boarded a shuttle with an honor guard. They flew into a smoking gash on the asteroid's surface that led down into its depths. Waiting at the end of a gloomy tunnel was the Clacks Queen, encircled by her armored guards. Light glinted off their wicked talons, but they did not interfere as Sola stepped forward. In a ruined command chamber washed in the fires of battle, the two leaders clashed. The towering queen unfurled sharp limbs, slashing and stabbing with blinding speed. But Sola was quicker, ducking and rolling, landing blows when she could. The duel seemed endless, neither managing to gain advantage. But Sola fought with icy determination, and soon her strikes began wearing the queen down. With a piercing shout, Sola landed a powerful kick that swept the queen's legs out from under her. The insectoid monarch crashed down, crumpling weakly. Breathing heavily, Sola pinned the queen by the throat with her boot. But strangely, she hesitated to land the killing strike. Mercy was an alien concept to the Clacks, yet perhaps it could inspire change. Sola stepped back, lowering her weapon. "Yield. Further bloodshed is unnecessary." Stunned by this act of compassion, the queen surrendered unconditionally. Sola had proven humanity's spirit burned brighter than any Clacks realized. Sola stood resolutely in the rubble-strewn command chamber, the defeated Clacks Queen kneeling before her. All around, fires guttered and alien alarms wailed, punctuated by distant explosions. The queen stared up at Sola, confusion swirling in her fathomless onyx eyes. "Why show me mercy, human?" she rasped. "You have proven your superiority. Kill me now and cement your conquest." Sola met the queen's gaze unflinchingly. "Killing should never be the first option," she replied, lowering her weapon further. "There are paths beyond violence. It takes courage to walk them, but the rewards are lasting peace." The queen shook her head. "Your words are alien to me. The Clacks only understand strength." "Then it's time the Clacks learned something new." Sola extended a hand. After a stunned pause, the queen took it. Sola helped the hulking insectoid to her feet. Around them, the raging battle seemed to still for a moment as combatants on both sides witnessed the surreal sight. Then, Sola's comms crackled to life. "Captain, what's happening down there?" It was Talcor, leading the Blarian contingent. "We detected your life signs amidst the enemy." Sola kept her pistol aimed warily at the queen. "The fighting's done, Talcor," she replied. "Stand by while I negotiate terms." What followed was a whirlwind of tension and diplomacy. The proud queen agreed to order her forces to surrender, though not all immediately complied. Skirmishes dragged on for hours until all Clacks finally laid down arms. With the unified coalition fleet in control of the base, Sola presided over the official surrender. A tenuous peace had been forged, but all sides knew much work remained to maintain it. Afterward, back aboard the human command ship, Sola sagged wearily into her bridge chair. Victory carried its own burdens. "You should be proud, Captain," said Talcor at her side. "You accomplished what we thought impossible, a ceasefire with the clacks." Sola managed a tired smile. "Hardly my doing alone, Commander, but for now, we've reminded them there are paths beyond war." Over the next months, Sola worked closely with the Blarians and penitent clacks to uphold the fragile truce. They destroyed stockpiles of clacks' weapons and established trade and communication channels. More than once, the ceasefire nearly collapsed, but Sola's indomitable will always brought it back from the brink. Both sides slowly reconciled that peace carried rewards cooperation never could. On the anniversary of the ceasefire, Sola was invited to speak at a gathering of species from across the solar system. She stepped proudly to the podium overlooking diverse faces. "When we first encountered the clacks, all we knew was hatred," Sola began. "But just as light banishes darkness, kindness and compassion illuminate the way forward more than any weapon. I have hope for a future where all species may reach for the stars, side by side." A thunderous standing ovation greeted her words. Watching proudly from the wings, Talcor turned to his aide. "Her spirit will light the galaxy." Though the road ahead remained long, Sola knew that step by step, flame by flame, even the deepest hatreds may be transformed into lasting bonds.